there is this preconceived notion that IMGs cannot match into competitive specialties like neurosurgery, orthopedic surgery, or plastic surgery. But here is a man who's done the impossible. He's discarded the impossible, and achieved this big dream of his of becoming a neurosurgery resident in America. So here we have with us Dr. Anudeep Yekula, and he'll be talking us through like how he matched into neurosurgery in the US and his whole journey.
Hi, Manik. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for that humble yet invigorating introduction. It was very exciting for me to join all of you to share my journey, and we broke the impossible. And I'm excited to talk to you and share my journey with you.
So talk to me about like where did you match and like how do you feel about where, like was it your top choice?
Yeah, so I matched into neurosurgery at University of Minnesota Medical Center. So that's University of Minnesota's neurosurgery program, and of course it's my top choice. And I was lucky enough to have matched into my top choice in neurosurgery. I don't know, a lot of people have asked me how I feel. I just don't have words to describe what I feel. It's just such a long journey, and every moment of where there were so many uncertainties, doubts, and you're constantly improving yourself. And at the end of the day, when you actually see things turn out on your side, it was just an experience that just stuck with me, and I don't have words to put into that will describe what I feel. But at the end of the day, I feel so humbled and so thankful for all those people who believed in me and who've given me that extra nudge that's required for me to get to that point. I think it's not a pride, it's not that on the top of the world feeling, but it's just that humility more than that sense of achievement, because in life there are a lot more things to achieve, a lot more landmarks to reach, but this is just the beginning of that journey, and being able to do what you want is such a great feeling in life, and I'm very happy that I'm gonna head that way.
How was your match reaction? So for March 14th, right? Like, were you sure like you're gonna match, or were you like 50-50 or like 25-75? I'm gonna match. Like, how was your what was in your mind before the email?
This was not my first match, right? Like, I've applied last year and did not match into neurosurgery. Instead, I spent 1 year doing a general surgery preliminary residency at Yale. So it was not my first going into a match. So I know what to expect. I know the tension, and I know the other side of how things would feel when things don't go your way. So even prior to the match, although I was cautiously optimistic, I was always, crossing my fingers and making sure that I'm not, I'm not expecting too much. And the good thing is, when you're in surgery residency, you're so busy that it just distracts you from everything else, and you're not sitting and pondering over what the result is going to be. But given how the interviews go, you kind of have a sense that things might work your way, but it's not until you actually see it on the on your email that things work. But I knew that I was going to match because of how the interviews went. But again, where is always the biggest question for me, and the scenario in which my match reaction would be completely different from all of yours, because you guys might have been at home waiting with parents waiting around. I was actually doing my rotation in surgical ICU, and there was a lady who was actively crashing, and we were trying to bring her back, and that's when my phone beeped, right? And when you're trying to save somebody's life, you are completely disconnected from your emotions, and you're trying to focus on what to do. So we were trying to get a femoral A line, and my phone just buzzed, and then so I had to because it was there, my brother texted me, so I was able to see the text result, and I was just so overwhelmed because on one side you are trying to like stay neutral, on the other side you just made it. And that whole 1 hour when we are trying to save her, I had like tears in my eyes. And there was one nurse who came to me and told, Doc, I mean, like, Doctor, are you okay? Why are you so emotionally connected with this patient? As much as I want to like tell her that I want to save her, it was such a, and then after some time I was smiling, it's like
a lot of mixed emotions, a big mixed bag of emotions.
That 1 hour was so dramatic in my life. The program director usually calls to like congratulate. So I was getting those calls and I wasn't able to answer because, I was trying to like put an airline and it was just so much happening. I can't ignore my chairman's call on the first day, right? But it was, after things like the storm settled down, I had, some time to like take a deep breath, let it sink in, call my friends, call my family, call my mentors. I like really broke down. I like cried and
wow.
it's such a moment, such a story.
That's intense. That's intense.
That was intense. If you make a movie of it, it'll be a good scene.
Take me through like your mindset. Like, there's just a very, very like strong preconceived notion that it is impossible to match into neurosurgery, right? Like even I felt so until I saw you matching, right? So tell me, like, everybody's like apply to IM because it's easier to match into. Like I applied to psych. So like my mom was like, just apply to IM. Why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you, because nobody wants to waste like 1 year, 2 years or something. So what was your mindset before you went just towards neurosurgery, or did you have backups? Like, what was your mindset?
Like, I can absolutely say that your application, your score, your research, and all of that is just a small component of your journey. And what you react, what you feel, and how you build yourself is the most important aspect of that journey. And as opposed to Indian sort of examinations, USMLE is a prolonged journey, right? And it's like 2 to 3 years of preparation, figuring out what to do, and trying to like navigate an entirely new channel, building connections and stuff. But when you add neurosurgery into mix, you're adding 2 to 3 more years with research, with collaborations, with finding mentors, and getting to that point. So I've spent at least 5 years of my life like including the time from the time when I started my USMLE journey to eventually get to that point. 5 years is actually equal to a medical school. And there are so many people who've told me that it's impossible, it's not doable. There was even one resident during one of my rotations when I said, they actually pulled up their CV and showed, it's a chief resident, I don't want to name programs and stuff. They had some 30 publications as a chief resident. And when I opened my CV, I just had one case report. And they showed these are the sort of applicants that you're competing against. And do you feel that you'll stand a chance? Right? Like there were so many things. Some were like, it's just not going to happen. And the point is, at one point, at one aspect of the journey, at one point of the journey, you just have to realize that it's your stupidity and your stubbornness that's going to take you along. So for me, I was just, I never thought that it was impossible because there are random instances of people doing it. So I knew that it was achievable, right? So for me, I knew that there was an endpoint, right? It's about how to get there, right? So with that instance where that guy showed that, okay, you need like so many papers, I knew that research was important. So I'm not a person who just gets bogged down when somebody makes a comment. When somebody is not supportive, I just delete them out of my mind and they don't exist. But it's always extremely important to find people who are supportive of you, but also knowing cautiously that it is against you, and you have to make sure that every 3 to 6 months you are stepping back and seeing that you're heading in the right direction, right? again, the mindset is being for me, I call it the surgeon's mindset. When you're in the operating room, you're not emotionally involved. You're not like emotionally riled up. You have a task in place, right? You have to open the incision and finish something. So there could be so many unpredictables that could happen, and you just have to like be afoot. You just have to like improvise a lot of things, and focus to get to the point. At every point, at every 30 minutes, 20 minutes, you just step back and see if everything is going on. Plan ahead about alternatives. Again, all these things for me is a part of that surgeon's mindset that I was trying to build as I advance in my career. And I applied the same principles to the match process as well, right? Instead of emotionally getting attached to every small aspect of the journey, every small compliment that I get, or every big criticism I get, for me it was just, okay, what can I take from it, and how can I improve myself? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the other persons feel about me. All it matters is how I perceive something and what I make of things. So for me, I was never too emotionally connected that everything bogged me down or everything made me off the top of the world. But the most important aspect when you're heading into such prolonged journeys is assessing where you are, right? When you finish your steps, right, you just have to step back and see where you're standing. And if you have a great score, right, things are going good. If you have a not so great score, the thing you have to think about is, what should I do differently to get to that point? The point is, the climax, the end point. The point is, how do you get there? How much time are you willing to invest? So it's just about making those small tweaks, right? And taking that healthy step back and getting that bird's eye view and assessing is extremely important in these journeys. And at every point, you need to have exit plans, because we have a visa, right? Again, I'm on J1, so every time it's like a ticking time, right? You only have a certain amount of time before you can like make those changes happen, or make something out of an opportunity. So it's all about, for me, distancing myself from my journey and looking objectively, right? And also, it's extremely important to take feedback. Okay, so there are people who've matched into neurosurgery, like as IMGs, who are like older, like who are like at least like 10 years down the road in their journey. So, you just have to like, I did take feedback, like giving my CV to them, and they would objectively like give me some feedback. So I would work on things. And I had like great, most amazing mentors who always gave me feedback, right? Feedback should be very constructively received, right? It can be given in any sort of way, but how you take it determines it. So for me, it's about stepping back as well as taking feedback actively that helped me structure the journey. Because at one point of time, all we know is how to like take USMLE steps. And after that, everything is sort of unknown. So it's kind of like navigating, being on the lookout, looking at opportunities. So it's kind of improvising. And for me, I knew the end point at all stages. And I always had, backup plans at every stage of my life so that I can tackle situations effectively. So that's my mindset. I call it the surgeon's mindset. And that's paid for me.
I love that. Like, so distancing yourself from your emotions, so
Yeah,
you can have objective view of the reality.
correct.
You're not
Yeah,
like in a distorted reality, oh no, this will
correct.
happen or not. So that's
Correct.
important, right?
Yeah.
And secondly,
And
improvising.
correct. And the other important aspect that I've seen with a lot of, especially like our Indian students, is that we compare a lot, right? We are all about, oh, you got 251, I got 252. Like, I think that is a very, very, very unhealthy mindset that I've seen a lot of people, even when people email me about advice, the first statement before their name is, I got 260 and this is my name, right? Their identity is lingered with the numbers, because that sort of mindset that we come from, again, kudos to all those who scored great, including yourself. But what I'm trying to like make a point across is these sort of USMLE journeys are so individualized, right? It's so random where I rotate, who I meet, which mentors I get, and which connections I build, and where I land up, right? As opposed to a standardized Indian exam where you're all competing at the same stage. So what I felt is that, uh, you should never compare yourself, but you should just have a broad overview of what people are doing, right? So for example, Madan scored so well, he did this rotations, he did this research, and he matched. So for me, it's just about those things. Okay, what did he do, right? It's not like, oh, he got a 270, but I only got a 250, so I'm worthless. He only got 250, I got 260, I'm amazing, so I can get into a better place than Madan. It's not like that, right? That's what we need to understand, to stop comparing our journey with others, right? Because there are so many random aspects in this journey that you cannot have apples to apples comparison. But you can learn from others' journey and have that healthy, healthy way of seeing what others have done instead of comparing yourself. Again, that goes down to negatively into your into your mind.
I love that. So take me through your backup plans. Like, so how was your downside planning like? That's what like they call it, downside planning. So if something wrong happens, how did you plan it
Yeah.
out? Like, so like what were your backup plans? Let's say you didn't match into neurosurgery, or let's say if anything went wrong, just take me through that.
Yeah. So talking about backup plans, right? So for me, I always knew I wanted to be a surgeon. So there was no second option for me, right? What type of surgeon was the question. And like my dad's a general surgeon. So I've had like a lot of inspiration that I drew from him to be a surgeon. Okay. And during my rotations, my first rotation was neurosurgery, and that just opened, because compared to the neurosurgery that I was exposed to in India, the sort of exposure that I've had here just like blew my mind. It was just surreal what people were doing here. And for what I felt is that, as in our method of education, we are always, the sort of things that we do there is like, okay, what is the standard of care, right? And we follow that. But here, for the first time ever in my life, I saw that people were questioning those standards of care because they want to like push the frontiers of care. They want to think differently. So they were, that sort of different mindset was absolutely new to me. I've never seen anything like that, where they were trying to like, for me, that was me. Second, the concept of surgeon scientist or physician scientist is absolutely new. Like we didn't have that MD PhD pathways when we studied. The only thing was MBBS, and that's all we all did, right? And I was like, oh my God, these people are amazing that they were all able to do both MD and PhD, during the same, because I didn't know that there was a course that existed, right? So, but what I've realized is that the degrees are different, but when you do research, you can actually like question and contribute to the existing paradigms of clinical care. And that to me was exciting and completely different approach than what we do. Even like our research is mostly from, again, the minimal exposure, the small town exposure is what I'm talking about. Like writing a case report, writing a review, that's all I knew, right? But here, like, I've seen how people were asking such interesting questions based on what they've seen clinically, and testing ideas in the clinic and taking them to the lab and trying to figure out creative ways. And these were some aspects that were completely different to me, that like drew me towards that. And talking about, this is what like said, okay, neurosurgery is like amazing. So I knew that was the endpoint I wanted to get to. Talking about backups, for me, the backups are immediate backups and eventual final backup. So the final backup was, I was looking into definitely general surgery, vascular surgery as my alternatives, but but knowing very well that, all these specialties look for dedication, right? So if I have a profile that's catered towards neurosurgery, vascular surgeons would not be interested in a person. It's like interested in neurosurgery. So, when you're like dedicated towards a one specialty, you're actually hurting yourself in every other specialty. So you kind of like burning the bridges there. So that is something that you need to have a caution about when you're going down these routes. My backups are more like short-term backups, right? For example, if basic science research did not work, what would I do? Right? If internship did not work, what would I do? So it was all like short-term backups rather than a long-term backup. Obviously, like the long-term backup was general surgery, but looking at the number of interviews and stuff, they knew that I like neurosurgery, and my general surgery interview numbers were not at all good compared to neurosurgery, because it's obvious why, and I completely respect that, because everybody's looking for people who are actually interested in that. And I think that is something that I realized, that you absolutely need to be crazy about that specialty to go down that route, and knowing very well that you're burning every bridge. But again, if you realize early on that things are not heading in your way, you can make a switch to the specialty that might be more within your reach. Again, it's not about I just have to do it and I just will ignore every objective data in front of me. It's not that way. You should be healthy enough to be able to assess your journey against the numbers out there, knowing full well that there will be small tweaks to get there, and strategizing along the way to get to where you want to go. What would I do if I didn't match it in neurosurgery? Probably I'll apply another year. But when things are heading the right way based on the feedback, I knew that my career, my CV was heading in the right direction. So I kind of knew that, okay, I am in a relatively safe spot at every point in my journey. But again, yeah, those were my short-term and long-term backups.
Okay, no, that's a really good advice about, like, yeah, they can tell from your CV, like the tone of your CV, like the way your LORs are written and the way like
exactly, yeah,
your CV is built up. Everybody can tell immediately, like
correct,
whether like you really like them or not, or you're just treating them as a backup. Yeah, I think.
Correct, yeah. And you should know fully well that these are the leaders in the field who have seen so many CVs, so many applications, and all it takes for them is a moment to realize what you are, right? So, you're not fooling anybody. So don't fool yourself first, right? So make sure that you're honest to yourself during this journey towards what you want and what you're working towards. So knowing your goals is more important than knowing your specialty, right? It's again like the lifestyles are completely different if you look at every specialty. So my advice is before having this crazy fixation on a particular specialty, you should know what you want in life, right? Because what I realized is that Americans, they finish their high school, they have 3 years of bachelor's, and then they go into med school. So when they're taking a decision in about what residency they want, they're at least 24, 25. They've been through a lot in life. They have an experience as a bachelor student, and they're more mature in taking those decisions. We, on the other hand, we are completely like, I've seen a lot of people, I'm not generalizing anything, I'm just like giving a broad thing, right? We finish our high school, then go to that intermediate, and then finish the med school, come out at 22, 23, and oh, this neurosurgery sounds really cool, let me do that, right? We don't have a lot of exposure before we make decisions, right? So and rotations is not just a line on the CV, but it's more of what lifestyle you want and why you want to do what you want to do, right? For me, I can definitely know my mental maturity as I went through these 4 years. And if I were talking to you 4 years back, my answers would have been so immature, so juvenile. But now I have matured, not just in the terms of CV. There are some things that you can objectively measure, but what you become as a human, as a doctor, is also important in that journey. So before you get fixated on a branch, I want people to do rotations, not because you want to line on your CV, but because you want to know what the field is, right? And just talk to people, right? Attend conferences, spend enough time with that branch to make sure it's the right branch for you, right? Don't, again, like with a dedicated specialties, not just with dedicated specialties, with any specialties, you would not have fun with that without knowing what it is, right? And I think, because internal medicine pathway is just it's a pathway that's familiar, it's a safer route. A lot of people go. Even psych is, a lot of people do not know how to navigate. They do not know that perspective of what psychiatry in India is and what psychiatry in the US is. There are profound differences, right? So having that understanding is extremely important before you go, because you don't want to walk into something and be surprised and be stuck in it for the rest of your life. So, spend time knowing the branch. And, thanks to people like you, in YouTube, there are a lot of resources out there who have been talking about their experiences, about how their days are. All these things are passively teaching you what a specialty is and what to expect, right? So do that before you fixate on your branch, because that ultimately will, build your passion. You don't need to have these remarkable stories in your life, that one moment that changed your life. You usually don't. It's always a decision that you build based on your experiences, right? So make sure you have acquired those experiences, and you're mature enough to take that decision. And once you've taken that decision, don't look around, right? And just focus, have that laser eye focus to get to where you want to get to.
Those are such wise words of wisdom. I'm not even kidding.
Yes.
I'm learning so much from this. Yeah, I've been so immature. Yeah. So I do yeah, that is very true. Because in India, when people see, oh, neurosurgeons make this much money, I want to go into neurosurgery. Orthopedic surgeons make this much money, right? I want to go into that surgery. I think that is such an immature mindset to have.
It's just that I wish our medical system has those opportunities which give us that healthy experience, instead of focusing just on examinations. If I had more research experience, more opportunities to connect with people, and shadow people, these things I felt are some things that our medical system could have incorporated more. But I do understand that given our clinical volumes and the necessity of churning in doctors, there are deficiencies there. It's also, I'm not trying to blame or anything, but these are constructive things that should also change systemically, so that the medical students have a better exposure of what they want to do in life, rather than going as a herd of sheep into these the so-called named specialties. Okay, even internal medicine in India, people, okay, let's all do internal medicine. It's like a group of friends going down that track. For me,
you know what happens? Okay, so radio is a top specialty, dermat is a top specialty. If I choose psychiatry, and I'm the year one, people are gonna question me so much, right? Why are you doing this to your life? Even if I I had great scores on the steps, everybody's like, why are you doing psychiatry? I'm like, I like it. What's your issue?
Exactly. That's the problem, right? It's a mindset problem. And that's why I just brought that whole situation of that thing out there. Again, it's me going into neurosurgery is not because I want that aura of being a nerd or being awesome. That's not the thing. It's because I like it. And you would see that the top neurosurgeons that you meet here, they are some of the most humblest people, and you would be amazed, right? These are superstars in the world. Like my mentor, Dr. Carter, he's chairman of neurosurgery at MGH, and he is the most humble and down to earth person that you would ever meet in your life. And you would be surprised, right? These are things that you need to understand. Don't judge a specialty by the name tag that it comes with, right? It should boil down to what you want to do in your life. And I think this goes back to choosing MPC, BIPC at intermediate stage, right? A lot of people, I feel, go down the route because the parents want, and not because they are completely aware of the fact that they want to be doctors. I think, if you start digging back, there are problems that start from
Start
probably
from, yeah, way
preschool.
back there. Yeah.
Right?
Psychiatry.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah,
psychiatry is
yeah. Go for
here.
it, man. Go for it.
Yeah, but I
I think
totally agree.
parents need to be
There-
counseled,
there's
not to
parent
push kids.
pressure, peer pressure,
Yeah,
so many things that
yeah.
make people want hyping specialities, even though they might not like
Correct.
them. And
Yeah, correct.
like, imagine how much work like how much of your life do you spend doing your work? Like 8 hours you
Correct.
sleep, the rest
Yeah,
like 6 hours you will do your chores,
yeah,
and the rest you will
yeah.
work, right?
Correct.
Do you want to
Yeah,
enjoy it, or do you just want to make
yeah.
money?
Exactly. And talking about money, like I think with USMLE, of course you spend a lot of money, but I think nobody in the US is a doctor because they want to make money. I'm talking about the American doctors, right? They have so much student loans, and I have so much respect for their journeys that, you know, every MD has like a huge student loan, and they're actually doctors because they love what they're doing, right? They want to help people. They want to like change how medicine is practiced. They want to like advocate for policy changes. And it's such a different mindset from where we come from, where making money is such an important aspect about medicine rather than like actually helping people, right? So that's something that I've learned from looking at their journeys, that you know going down this routes, you need to have that clarity about why you're doing this, right? For me, when I feel that, you know, being a neurosurgeon, operating, like saving people and helping neurosurgery across the world is not my mission, there's no point of me heading down that path just to make money. Okay, for example, yeah, neurosurgery, they do make a lot of money, but you're in the operating room all day. What do you do with that money, right? So what's the use of money if you can't enjoy it? So for me, making money, like the point is, in US everybody lives an isolated life, not isolated, but a personalized life, that it's never about show off. Nobody like shows off. Everybody is well within their means, right? Okay, if I have a little more money, what would I do differently? Maybe buy a little more expensive car, buy a little more expensive shirt, eat a little more expensive food. But more beyond that, there's nothing more. Maybe go on one expensive vacation, right? So don't make money your priority when you're heading down that route. Like, again, if that is your priority, sure, fine. There are a lot of other things to do as well. But if you want to be a doctor, a surgeon, there should be other things that are motivating you so that you're happy in the long run than money. And that's extremely important. And don't even go for prestige, right? Like, at one point it won't matter. The thing that matters is how you feel on a day-to-day basis and how you get along with the people you love. And don't forget those fundamental aspects about life that are more important than these pseudo prestigious and financial well-beings and stuff. You got to be happy, and that's the most important aspect of life.
Talk about your step scores, and like, so when did you give your steps, your step 1, step 2, have you given
Okay.
your step 3? So all about
Okay.
that.
Yeah. So I gave my step 1, I think, in my internship period, and then started my research and didn't realize how intense research is, and I had to like give my step 2 during my research time, right? So again, like I'm never a big proponent of like numbers, right? I'll give you the ballpark if you are aiming at surgical specialties, okay? 245 plus, or 245 plus to 270 is what you have to target. Okay. My score doesn't matter. There are others who got greater scores and still didn't make it in neurosurgery. What I want to tell you is everybody who's applying to these competitive specialties have awesome scores, right? And there was no single person in my entire interview who asked about scores, because they assume, I mean, they have such stringent filters that if you don't have the score, you are weeded out, right? And there's nothing you can do. And the point is, the scores do not represent how smart or how good a neurosurgeon or a good surgeon you're going to become. The only aspect about scores that I've learned from my neurosurgical journey is that they want to make sure you pass neurosurgery boards. That's it. Because it's hectic.
Yeah.
And you have a very little time. They want to know that you have the discipline to take your time off, prepare for an exam, and pass. That's all they care about, right? 250 versus 270, it means nothing to any neurosurgeon. You talk to people along the way, they don't discriminate you because you have 250, right? That's what I want people to understand, that you get to a safe zone and forget about your score. And there are 100 more things that you have to work on, and that's what you have to focus on. Unfortunately, I haven't taken my step 3 yet, and I'm working on it right now. But again, going back to it, the faster you finish your steps, it's the easier it is, right? And never, like, doing steps during research is so hard that I cannot, like, there are people who take like 6 months of dedicated undisturbed time, but when you only have like 2 hours per day and you're like already exhausted, it's just hard to, like, find the time to do what is required of that examination. So try to, like, finish your examinations as soon as possible before you go down to research or anything of that sort. But life is not always structured, but if you have to, like, take examinations during your research time, you just have to, like, strategize better, right? Even when you're like an intern or a resident, don't ever expect that you will have these protected 3 to 5 month windows where you can study for examinations, because the road is just getting rougher from here. This is just the beginning. So
Yep.
When you wake up at 4 in the morning, go to work, and come back at 6:30, physically and emotionally beat down, but still have to find that ounce of strength to sit for 1 hour, that is what discipline and emotional strength comes down to. So don't always look for that protected situations. What they talk in surgery is that you need to be able to, like, learn on the go. If you have like 1 hour blocked downtime during your day, take something, read, do 4 questions, read a small topic. So the learning is so active, and you should be able to find those chunks of time even during the day, and try to do the best you can. So, and I think studying during my research has prepared me to that, to be able to, like, push that extra mile and try to, like, make the most of time. Like, time management and all those things were extremely important aspects of what I've learned during my journey. So, yeah, don't always wait for those protected happy periods of time.
Yeah.
Because even for internal medicine, everything in residency, they have to still take boards. So they're not going to have 4 or 5 months. So make sure you're able to, like, study every day. That discipline is extremely important. That how smart, again, all of us are smart, and give all of us 7 months of time, we all will get 270s. But that's not the case, right? We're all given different problems in life, different financial situations, different goals. So, and how we perform depends on all those factors as well. So, make sure you're learning not just for numbers, but because you want to learn, right?
To
That
apply,
makes a difference.
or to
Correct.
do stuff, right?
Correct.
Rather than just numbers.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that. Like, and I think in it, like, especially as an Indian student, like, I remember my dad. So my dad's a doctor. So once I got like 95% in my
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
5th standard, and my dad was unhappy. He's like, "Where's the rest of the 5%?" I'm like, I feel like that kind of mindset,
Yeah.
like that you're like
Yeah.
drilled into as
Yeah,
an Indian
we should
kid.
all go back and see our parents' mark lists, and start judging them. Maybe then they'll stop. The point is, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
scores don't matter. Scores don't matter.
But I love
just
that.
look at the averages and just be on the safer side. That's all I would say.
That's amazing advice. Talking about your year of graduation, and like, so when did you graduate, and how long have, like, so what did you do once you were, like, once you graduated? So how,
Okay.
like, what was like, what were the events
Okay.
that led to your match?
Okay, so I did my rotations in neurosurgery, vascular surgery, and surgical oncology during my internship. And after that, I went back to India, finished my graduation in 2018, immediately started my research position. So it was during my my rotations that I was able to connect with my mentor, Dr. Bob Carter, and Dr. Balai. So and then they again, they didn't like me because I had an amazing CV to begin with. No, I did not. And I had a lot of gold medals. They do not know what gold medals are. So that didn't make a difference. You know, what makes a difference is how you present yourself when you talk to somebody, right? I'm telling you, you'll be amazed by what things will give you opportunities. Like you say, you go to big people and say that you have a 270, they've seen hundreds of people like you, dude. Like that's not what's going to impress them. But
Yeah.
be a good person, be a humble person, and show genuine interest. It doesn't matter what your score is, like they will make things happen for you. So, you know, have that humility when you're going down these journeys, right? And I would say, I asked my mentor, like I asked Dr. Balai, right, who interviewed me, like, I don't know how to hold a pipette, right? I didn't have any research experience in any basic science lab. Like, why did you trust me to like give me this postdoc position in such an amazing lab? You know, the answer that she gave me is because I felt you're honest, right? So, you know, it was that gave me that opportunity to like to start my research. And again, that can only like take you a little bit, right? So how, when you ask people for research positions, just make sure you know what you're asking for and make sure you're humble, right? Don't expect them to give research positions just because you have step scores. That those two things are completely different. Just show your genuine interest and be respectful of others' time, and don't just like keep emailing them until they respond, right? The way you structure your email, the way you talk, the way you approach them, all of these things are very important in for the opportunities that you're eventually going to get, rather than what you have on the CV. They know that you're all young, you're all junior, that you're all trying to make it, and they respect that enthusiasm more than what you come with. Okay, and express your interest to learn, and that will take you farther. Okay, so and then I did 2.5 to 3 years of research at MGH. And again, as opposed to a lot of other IMGs who do, my research was in basic science, developing blood-based tests for the diagnosis of brain tumors. So that was also a completely different ball game for me, because you know, like who coming from India have basic science experience trying to like do ddPCRs and sequencing. So everything, I had to learn everything, educate myself. And thanks to my mentors, they were able to like help me and guide me. But mentoring can only take a little so far if you do not put in that effort. So every small thing is a learning opportunity, right? So I had to learn the methods and make sure I'm doing it well and make sure I'm productive. So you know, I was never overwhelmed by what basic science is, but for me, it was always a healthy mindset of learning and doing well and learning from others who are around you. Everybody wants to teach you, and the same applies in residency too. Nobody's expecting you to come with every sort of knowledge in this world, but be humble enough to ask people and learn early on so that you can become better as you progress in life. So for me, I always made sure every experiment that I design and do is at perfection. So I do the groundwork. Again, for me, it always boils down to surgeon's mindset. What I do is you spend time preparing for the surgery, because once you're in the surgery, you can't scrub out to open a book and read what's going on and go back to the operating room. So you have to be prepared before going into the operating room or into the experiment. You should have thought about every problem that that could occur, and you should have backups. And then you should like strategize things and know where things have gone wrong so that you can fix them and eventually get to an experiment. So, you know, building that reputation, that you are technically good, that you're scientifically good, that you're understanding what is happening around, and and that will make you go up the ladders. So when I started off on an unpaid position, but in 3 months I was able to get to a full pay, because they appreciate the effort that you do and the productivity that you bring to the table. So for me, it's all about being humble, being on top of game, learning, educating yourself, and again, step back at every 3 months. For me, if I didn't do well in 6 months, I would have like sought out a different opportunity. Maybe I would have like gone to a different, but things were working at every stage. I knew that things were heading in the right direction. So so my research portfolio is like quite strong, so because I was able to spend time and make the most of the time I have, right? Being able to use the opportunity. Again, a lot of people like have emailed me or like texted me about, I want to do research at Harvard. The point is, it's not Harvard that's important, right? There are so many people at MGH or Hopkins or like the big places of the world. For me, my recommendation is, don't go after names, right? Like, if somebody is willing to give you an opportunity, take it, right? What you make of that opportunity is more important than where you are, right? So whoever is willing to like trust you and bet on you and support you and mentor you, you should respect them. And whatever opportunity that you get, you should make the most of it and make sure you're coming out of it in the most productive fashion. And that's more important than where you are. And trust me, everybody in neurosurgery is influential, and or in every specialty, their word carries weight. Okay, so make sure that you're building a long-term relationship with mentors, right? They are the ones at one point of time, like, see, until I get my mentor, I'm mentoring myself based on the experiences. But once you're under somebody's wing, they are there for you, right? To they look at your profile, they tell you what to do, they tell you what not to do, they tell you which conferences will benefit you. So you need to make sure you get to people who want to support you. If somebody is just busy, because again, you need to be respectful. If when somebody doesn't respond to you, it doesn't mean that they ignore you or they think too high of themselves. It's because they're busy, right? They're operating, they're saving lives, they're doing research, they're presenting in conferences, right? Don't just try to like step into their shoes and understand, right? Like, they get a lot of emails, from students who are reaching out. The things that catch their eye, sometimes it's just random, right? That's why it's life is just unpredictable. It's because for me, that one guy who opened the door was Dr. Carter, and for me that changed my life, right? So just be open-minded and don't fall into these conclusions when people don't respond. That's about it, right? So for me, research was all about learning, and even till today, I don't know everything, but just for me, I keep learning. I keep learning how to write grants, writing papers. Every small aspect is learning, and you learn on the go. And when you get an opportunity, and don't over. I never oversold myself, but when they gave me an opportunity, I made sure that I did my best, right? And when you send a draft and when they give you feedback, right, you improve yourself. And they look at that improvement. And trust me, they look at that improvement, they look at the growth, right? They know that you are just this. Again, the point of mentor is that, right? That they know your flaws, that they know where you started from, but they see your growth. They see that you're learning. They see that you're taking the feedback that they're giving to become a better person, right? A better neurosurgeon or a better neurosurgery applicant. So they look at that growth, and their support is reflected on that growth, right? If you're just like taking advice but not acting on it, nobody's going to give you advice. But if you are that person who are improving, you're working, again, even the way we communicate is something that I had to work on, because where did we come from, right? We speak in our local languages. So the way you put forth things, everything has to be polished, has to be, and be humble enough to know that there is a lot for you to work on. And make sure, again, when you go to a conference, it's not just about presenting. See how others are presenting, see how they're structuring their slides, see how they are carrying themselves. So all these things is there's so many aspects that you have to learn that, we can keep talking for days about every single
Yep.
aspect, right? So you just have to be open. You open your mind, open your eyes, and see what's around, and look at the journeys of people who've made it and how they've structured it, and learn from that, and be humble enough to, like, when it's your turn to give back, be humble enough to give back. And that's what it takes. So once I'm done sorry, I'm just like going off
It's okay.
tangents, but
Yeah. No
once
worries.
once I'm done with my research, I applied, right? I didn't match.
And how many years was this research, by the way?
3 years.
So 3 years of research, you still
Yeah.
did not match.
Correct.
Oh my
Right.
God.
Correct.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah. And when I applied for my first time, again, the point is, I do understand why I didn't match, right? Like, I did 3 sub-Is, I did like 3 years of research, I had a lot of publications, I presented so many conferences. Like, I still didn't match because, surgical specialties are not just about how good you're not there to be a researcher. You're going to be, they want to make sure you're a good surgeon, right? So they're also looking at your clinical skills. Like, a lot of rotations are just small experiences. So what I felt is that, okay, my research portfolio is quite strong. Again, what should I do better? Right. So I took a step back and I felt that, 1 year of surgical internship will enhance my surgical skills and complement my research capabilities. So that is my mindset, or my thought process behind going into a surgical specialty. Okay, I can get 5 more papers versus 1 year of clinical experience. So I chose the other, right? So I did 1 year of surgical internship, and that added tremendously to my profile. So, the amount of things that I had to like prove myself, like, you need to have good scores, you need to have great research, you need to have great mentor support, you need to have clinical experience. And that's a lot of things that you need to like put forth to a program director to say that, I am good, right? So that's what you need to know, that, it's not just about scores, or not just about one aspect of my profile that made it, right? It's every single thing that had to like fall into the right place before things worked out. And this also boils down to, again, for me, it's also about thinking from the other person's side, right? How do they trust me? A lot of internal medicine programs have a lot of residents. So if a resident is not like super good, they can compensate with others. But when you come to neurosurgery, every program has 1 or 2 spots. Some big programs have 3 spots. So your entire service, half your service is dependent on how that one student performs, right? If you're not good, the entire service falls apart, because if they cannot trust you, like, that's it, right? So you're just proving to them that you're good, right? That you're responsible, that you can be a mini version of the attendings and make sure that their patients are cared for, right? That is what you're trying to accomplish. So for me, as a neurosurgeon, right, I want to be surgically and clinically good. So I did my rotations. I proved that I can do well on my boards. And I also did a surgical internship at a very good program. Again, it's not about the names, it's how you perform, right? And that I have an experience integrating myself into the US system to like be a really good clinician, right? So that to me is telling them that I am clinically good, okay? That I am gonna make a good neurosurgeon in a clinical fashion. Again, once you get to that point, they will train you ahead. But to get to that point, you need to come with something, right? And research-wise, that I'm academically productive. I can do research. I can apply for grants. I can get grant funding. I can like innovate and get payments, and present at national conferences. So this to me is telling them that I am willing to push the frontiers of neurosurgical care. So it's all this complementing aspects of life, or of this journey, that you're putting forth when you present yourself to the program director.
Wow. So you're kind of like not putting words out there, you're showing them that you're worthy enough.
Correct.
right? And then there is
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
persistence, that fire that I won't give up,
Yeah.
right? I'm
Correct.
willing to
Yeah.
improve. It's
Correct.
not over.
Yeah, and they look at your journey and they know right off the bat that, okay, this guy has spent time, he's spent an effort, he really likes what he is doing, and that reflects on your profile, right? Like these are, again, surgeons are so quick to judge. I'm not even kidding. Like they make judgments like that, and so you just have to like show to them, right? Not through words, like you said, through your application that you're good. And once the application is done, how you carry yourself during an interview is also extremely important,
Yeah,
right?
if you don't have good interpersonal and communication skills,
Correct.
why would they want you?
Exactly. And these are things that we are a little deficient in because we don't have all the sort of interview experience at any point of our journeys, right? All our medical system is like, get the top mark, get whatever specialty you want, which is,
Fine.
in an Indian system is right. But we need to like work on how to communicate our views, our thoughts, and ourselves, how we package ourselves, how we market ourselves is extremely important, right? And, again, see how other people are doing. There are a lot of interviews on YouTube. Take lessons from whatever is out there and modify it based on your story and make yourself good. And that's what will take you further.
So that was great. Just take me through your first match. How many interviews did you get? Did you apply, like, do you apply to neurosurgery and general surgery? And then we can talk about your second match season.
Yeah. So my first match season did not go super well. Probably it's because of the clinical experience component of things that I got around like 4 or 5 neurosurgery interviews and 4 or 5 general surgery preliminary interviews, and I was lucky enough to have matched at my first choice of general surgery prelim interview. So I did that, right? And even those numbers are not good enough to match neurosurgery. And because, every applicant is just a superstar, they have spent so much time, effort. You look at their profiles and it's quite intimidating, right? But you need to like get to that point. Again, it's not about comparison. It's about what your story is. So work healthily and, I took a step back, worked on getting a little more clinical experience, and I published more, got a research grant, and and was able to put together a stronger profile the following year, right? And on the next cycle, I was able to get 10ish neurosurgery interviews, and I think at that point, I just hurt my surgical chances even more.
How many general surgery interviews did you get?
Like 2.
Yeah, because your CV
kidding.
just became more toned and coherent towards neurosurgery.
Correct. Yeah. So I kind of knew that, general surgery is not
gonna be for me.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough that I matched. So yeah.
And you said when you applied, you were pretty certain you will match, right?
Yeah.
How?
When I applied.
No, the second time.
Yeah. Again, even the second time, I wasn't sure if I would match when I applied. I gained confidence as I started getting interviews, and as I started performing well in my interviews based on the feedback I'm getting during my interviews and based on the responses. The tone was much more positive than the prior year, and that to me was saying that I was a stronger candidate. I was performing better, and the programs were taking me more seriously. That was the sense I got. So as I went ahead, I had a sense of calm based on how the responses were to my thank you emails and stuff, that I felt that I was at a safe spot. Again, not until I saw the actual match that I knew that I was in a safe spot. Like, don't get me wrong, it was terrifying at every single point. But thanks to my surgical internship, I was just so busy that I didn't have time to be frightened.
That's great. Yeah, so it was not a coin toss, right? It was just at least you knew okay, more than 50% chances of matching.
Correct, exactly. That's about it.
Yeah. So okay, that's amazing. Talk to me about your volunteer experiences. Do you have any? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, again, my volunteer experiences were just from my time in India, like when we do, our SPM stuff. nothing out of that. And when I came to the US, like I did a few things with my team. Yeah, those volunteer experiences, again, my primary focus was like research and clinical things, and I didn't have a lot of volunteer experiences. We did like something for glioblastoma awareness, but that's about it. But I was just like didn't have any bandwidth, and most of my time was dedicated towards research, and the main difference. And again, volunteer experiences are helpful, but they're not the game changers, especially for surgical specialties. But again, they appreciate a lot if you're like active there. And again, these are great things to talk about during your interviews, but at least for me, I didn't have much there.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Talking about interview prep, how did you prepare for your interviews? And like, how were your interviews? Like when you were interviewing, talk to me about your interviews. Like what kind of questions did you get asked about? So all about interviews.
So, right, the questions are usually what are circulating out there, right? So we all have a laundry list of questions that apply to every branch, correct? So even in neurosurgery, it's going to be the same questions. Tell me about yourself. Why do you want to be a neurosurgeon? What are your goals going ahead? It's always the same questions, but it's your answers that make the difference, right? So for me, yeah, so one of my mentors, they use the word soul searching. So I spent 1 or 2 months, understanding what my answers were and fine tuning them, right? So don't go into interview unprepared. This is the most important aspect of your life. You've built everything so far to get to that one point, and get that one day is extremely important, and you don't know which aspect will turn them off or which aspect will impress them. And trust me, every interview is composed of at least 8 to 9 neurosurgeons, and all of them should like you to take you. If one person do not like you, they will not take you, because it's just 2 spots, right? So you have to be prepared. Make sure, again, make sure your answers are to the point, and write your answers down, practice them. Say, like, practice how you want to like answer to those questions, right? And over time, you have accumulated so many experiences in your life that you will have answers to all the questions, right? You just have to like spend time to pick which instance is the best one and how you want to structure your answers. So my preparation is that soul searching to get the answers. Use the standard questions that are asked, but make sure you prepare your answers well and have that body language and that clarity in your answers when the questions are asked, right? And interview and do mock interviews with your friends, with people in your specialty of interest. Take feedback. Don't be shy to like make mistakes in front of friends or your mentors, because they're the ones who are trying to correct you. So I always like did mock interviews with my mentors, with my resident friends, and they gave me a lot of feedback, and I was able to like fine tune my answers based on their feedback and refine things as I progressed.
Yeah, that's great. Like, so what I've seen in interviews is like, especially the IMG thinking.
Yeah.
Like we focus way too much on getting the scores, and when the interview comes, we are just like, they'll just slide through, we'll just like go through them and it'll be over. That's it. That's such a wrong thought process, because scores are just the mean goals to the end goal, which is the interview. An interview makes or breaks the deal, right? Because everybody's at the level playing field.
Correct. And if you look at the NRMP data, the weightage of interpersonal skills always tops the scores.
Trumps it.
Which means that even if your scores are bad, but if you can like do well in your interview, you got the spot. And even if your scores are great, if you're just awkward and not good and not able to like communicate well, you're done. So make sure you work on your interpersonal skills as much as you work on your scores and your research, right? So again, they're looking for wholesome applicants. They're not looking for people who are good test takers or good researchers. They are looking for a wholesome applicant who wants to do well in life, and also make sure your personal life is also good in this journey. Don't be like that one-minded person who is sitting in their room and studying, right? Like have a, again, they want to make sure that you are able to take the beating of a residency and have something to look forward to in life, right? Have a family, have good hobbies, have something to decompress you when things are not going well in life. So, make sure you have those coping mechanisms in place for you to advance in your journey in a healthy and a positive way. And yeah, again,
what?
residents. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. You can talk. I can say.
No, I'm just saying that residency is going to beat you down and test everything that you've got. Okay, so just be prepared. Unless you're like happy, you just can't make it. You just can't wake up the next day and go at 4 every single day. Like we're used to going to work at 9 in India, right? Here it's 4. That's like 6 hours.
You know what my interviews used to ask me.
Yeah.
So like I was in India and I was giving my interviews.
Yeah.
So it like for
time?
them it would be the morning. For me it would be like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. And they'll be like, we are so sorry. Like it's happening at this time. I was like, you don't need to worry about it. I'm enjoying this interview anyways, and I'm a night owl. So like I feel like that rising to the occasion, every little thing you say matters. Like like even after sometimes I had interviews that were 8 hours long. I'm not even kidding, because it was just so long. And by the end, people would be like apologizing to me, we're so sorry that you must have gotten so fatigued. I was like, I'm just getting more energized. I'm having so much fun. Because you have to show that you're enjoying it, not just like getting. So I think that was something important from my interview experience.
Definitely, like all the surgical interviews are 8 to 9 hours long.
Oh my God.
Yeah, every single one, and they're like so back to back. You only have 5 minutes break. So just you have to be on top of your game.
Another USMLE exam, huh? 9 hours.
Yeah. Oh my, when you're in research, every day is a USMLE examination, right? How you do an experiment, how you talk, how you present your results, USMLE exam is just, like I'm telling you, it's just beginning. It's just a small aspect of the entire journey.
Another question I wanted to ask you was like what I saw in interviewing, especially like there were these 3 levels of people. Like the beginner were like people who couldn't even talk. Intermediate were like people who had a good, like great Q&A session. But then there were like these advanced interviewers, which was not me at that time. So I would see these American grads, and they kind of made the interview invisible. They made it look like a conversation. The interviewer was laughing and they were laughing. But like sometimes I couldn't do that. Like what I feel like that is like the level you need to be playing at, is to make the interview invisible and just conversational, like where you're enjoying and you're producing emotional impact, right? Correct. What do you think about that?
See, definitely. The point is, they are looking not just for great applicants, they're looking for great people to work with, to train, right? That's why they're like trying to have conversations. The interview always starts with formal questions. But the point is, like, when you spend time in the US, learn also to talk to people, know what conversations that they are interested in. And when you answer questions, make sure it's formal enough, but also reflecting your experiences. And those points will take them down some routes or some conversations that are more casual. Like we are talking, right? Every conversation started off as a formal question, but we eventually dive down to more your experiences versus my experience. So that sort of thing is what we're looking for. And that only comes when you have spent a little time in the US learning how to communicate, as well as gained enough experience. And you also should be able to like have things to talk about, okay? That comes by soul searching. Go back to your stories, like your experiences from your medical school, your experiences from rotation, make a list of them, and bring them up at the right points so that you communicate effectively. And don't just deviate don't go on weird tangents, don't talk inappropriate things, don't be politically incorrect. So you also need to know what are okay to talk about, what are not okay to talk about. And you should also be able to read the other person, right? And when the other person is like disinterested or like not paying attention, it means that you're heading. Exactly. So it's all also about, again, it's like, what do you do? Like, it's about, well, how, again, when you're with a friend in a restaurant, right? Just treat that like that, right? Talk, treat it as a conversation, treat it as just an informal conversation in your mind. Not, don't go on calling him like bro. What I'm trying to say
Yeah.
is just keep it informal. The other person is also a human being with experiences. Ask them, you can ask them interesting stories about their life, what led them to uh, go down their paths, what advice they have. Like, these sort of questions also makes them talk, right? When they start talking, then you can find things that you both can like vibe on. So you can bring up stuff. Just make it a conversation. Just don't make it, you know, it's not like a Q&A session that there's no right answer. Like, you can give the wrong answer, but still match, right? It's not about the right answer. It's about conversation. It's about them feeling comfortable that you're a happy person, you're a nice person to be around. That's all.
Exactly, because they want those kind of people interacting with patients, right? Because if you cannot make
Correct.
it conversational with them, how are you going to do it with a patient who's already scared?
Correct. Exactly. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for people, for example, like people who, like, what the analogy that they've told me is that we will be in the operating room and you will be our representative who would go to the patients, talk, and convey some of the most difficult news, and deal with people who are on the verge of breakdown in the most difficult aspects of their life. And we want to like choose an applicant who can carry themselves in that way, right? At that point, you want to make sure you are able to be humble. Like, humility takes you a long way, and the way you carry yourself takes you a long way. So you need to present yourself as that sort of a person who can be their representative when they are not there. So that's why they're looking for people like them. And don't ever downplay your cultural aspect, right? Everybody loves to learn about your culture. So when you're able to like talk to them about your upbringing, what you've learned in life, what principles that you've gained along your journey, that's what they like, what your Indian system has taught you. Don't ever say that you are here because India is not good, or whatever country they're coming from is not good. That's not the point. Every place is good within the means that they have, right? It's every system has adapted based on the situation they have. Make all your answers positive, right? Why are your step scores low? The answer has to be positive. Okay. Don't come with excuses, right? You're in residency, you'll be under stress, right? You can't say that I have had a hardship. That's why, just say, just be truthful. Just say, okay, this is a situation I've faced, and this is a reflection of that. But I've learned how to distance myself from these things and work more on so and so aspects so that I can perform better. And I was able to like do very well on my step. Make every answer positive, and that's what will make sure you get to the next phase.
That's called reframing, like changing the way like you look at things. And I feel that's so important in like conversation. Like you turning the negative into positive again is a good quality to have, right? With respect to your mistakes, right? All the mistakes that you made along this journey, right? What would be your tips for future applicants that like they don't repeat the same mistakes as you?
Like, if I look back, I don't know what mistakes I've made. The point is, there are no right or wrong ways, right? For example, is applying last year a mistake? I wouldn't know, because that's the only route I took, right? I don't have an alternative reality where I have not applied last year and applied this year. So for me personally, there are no mistakes. There will never be mistakes in life. There will be experiences, right? So what I feel is that when your score is low, or when you feel that that is not the way you wanted things to go, you need to overcompensate in other aspects. By that, I mean that you need to become a stronger applicant from a different aspect so that you present yourself as a better applicant. So don't worry about a few negative things about your application. You're human. And people do understand that nobody is perfect. They're not looking for a perfect application. Everybody has their own drawbacks, but how you've overcome them and how you've made yourself stronger is your story. Okay. And if your journey is reflective of that, you are a winner. And it doesn't matter which specialty you go to, it doesn't matter which program you go to. Stop comparing yourself and respect the people who gave you whatever opportunity that you have and learn to make the most of it. There are so many who want to be in your shoes, right? So it's about you and your journey and your opportunity and what you make the most of that determines where you go. Whichever program you're matched, you should be happy. Go in with enthusiasm, learn, go find great mentors, right? Make sure you get into great fellowships. Try to do some research. Try to understand what is it that makes a good applicant from a great applicant and make yourself that. And this journey is a constant learning. So learn and understand things, what makes you happy. You don't need to be a great researcher to be happy, right? So fundamentally understand things that make you happy. If it's family, do that. If it's going out to party, do that, right? If it's studying, do that. So find things that make you happy, because that is ultimately the thing that makes the difference in life. It's not the big names, it's not the prestigious branches, but it's about that happiness that is the difference. So one mistake versus not, there are no mistakes, it's just experiences. Just be happy that you failed in certain aspects, because when they ask you how you failed, what are the low points in life, you have an experience to talk about, right? So use the low points in your life as the things that molded you, because if not for those experiences, what are you, man? So just use them, and congratulations to all those who matched. You guys have made it, and it's just the beginning of the journey. And make sure you enjoy every aspect of your residency, and it's going to be great.
I love that answer. Final question: will you marry me? Bro, you're just too wise, bro. I'm not even kidding. You're just too wise. After this, you're gonna have a lot of marriage offers coming to your email. I'm not even kidding.
That's funny. I wasn't expecting that.
I'm just kidding. So the answer is no, guys. Yep. Yeah, it was just fun.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, the journeys teach you a lot, and I'm glad that I took this journey, as difficult as it is. I have to especially thank my parents, my mentors, who don't know me, who don't know my medical college, but they've believed in me, and they've supported me, and they've given me that extra push to get to that. So, I'm so grateful to them, and I'm so happy that I've made it. And I'm sure that the thing I say is that you just have to be stupid enough to dream it and stubborn enough to make it. Everybody will say it's not going to happen. You just have to be like, yeah, it's going to happen. You just have to lie to yourself until you make it. So you will. You just have to be stubborn. You just have to have that discipline and keep pushing, and you'll get it. So
stupid enough to dream it and stubborn enough to make it. I love that quote. Yep.
I just made it up.
Dr. Anudeep. Dr. Anudeep, done.
Thank you so much, Madan. And you're doing an amazing thing. And please like, subscribe, and share if you like this. And